I was just 800 meters from the summit. I could see the summit, but my oxygen regulator broke off. Had to turn around. I had to make I think it's one of the most difficult decisions of my life. People started dying. Some people died on the rope, and some people made mistakes to overtake. They unclipped themselves from the rope and they wanted to go around and they slipped and they died. So a lot of this, it's the harsh reality of mountain climbing. And that was a big eye opener for me because I was like, this is not why I came here. It was too young.
Hello, lovely friends. Welcome back to Panacea9. We have an exciting episode waiting for us. You were here, or maybe not, but if you were, you saw the conversation I had with Shidan Majidi about his theatrical and film background. And I mentioned in the first episode that the reason Shidan came on our program was his newest project, which is called Climbing My Everest, the project that's co-produced and co-directed with Riza Alee. Riza happens to be the subject of the film as well. But before we even say hello, let me give you a brief introduction. Riza is an accomplished athlete and filmmaker. At the age of 18, he was part of the tragic 2019 expedition to Mount Everest, and his photo of the over-trafficking on the mountain went viral, gaining worldwide attention to the crisis. He then released a short film about this expedition in the same year, Everest, the mountain that changed my life, which has been viewed by over 4.6 million people on YouTube to date. Riza was also the subject for an Everest documentary, which aired on National Geographic, called A Deadly Ascent. Later, Al Jazeera released Skiing in Kashmir, which Riza co-directed and co-produced. He is currently developing Climbing My Everest, a documentary film that highlights his climbing expeditions with a focus on mental health illness. Welcome to the program, Riza.
Thank you so much. That was a really long introduction.
That's what Shidan said. You two are too modest.
But at his age, it's impressive.
It would be impressive at any age. But yes, like you said, especially because of your age, you're such a, I'm so proud of you, and I'm not related to you.
Thank you so much.
It is so wonderful to see, especially the younger generation, the Gen Z, which you're going to, I'm sure, talk about. Well, I have two Gen Z children, two boys, and it's so nice to see young people of that generation flourishing the way you have, and not only seeing the results of your accomplishments for yourself, but also what they can do for other people, because we are connected, right? Whatever we do, it's the ripple effect. It's like throwing a stone in the ocean. When we throw the stone in the ocean, the ripple effects go on and on and on and on and on. Even if we don't see them, the effects are going on. And it's the same way with the sort of thing you do and the sort of thing you do, Shidan. I mean, both of you, your projects are so heartwarming, so wonderful to have people who care about other people and not just their own accomplishments and successes. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Riza. You come from Kashmir, obviously, and you are in New York now. So can you go back a few years
Yeah, so my name is Rizza. I come from a very small place called Kashmir. A lot of people don't know about it. It's in the north of India, and I was born in a very small village. And eventually we moved to a nearby city when I was 11 years old. From the very beginning, I had this obsession and love for nature. And, I was so driven by it. And since I was born in a very beautiful village, I was always connected to nature. So my journey began calling myself a nature photographer, borrowing my uncle's camera and taking pictures all around. And then my obsession with climbing the world's highest mountain, which I was aiming for a very long time. And I eventually climbed Everest when I was 18 years old, which was 5 years ago almost.
Was that your first attempt?
That was my first attempt, yes. And it was one of my biggest, obviously, dreams. Like everything, it was one of the biggest things I've ever done in my life. Not just physically speaking, but as well as financially, because I come from a very small place, and a lot of people who are watching this may not know, but they can Google about this. Climbing Everest costs at least starting $40,000 to $50,000, even more. It can go up to $200,000
Just for the climb.
just to climb. I was not from that kind of money, so my background wasn't that. But I had a lucky dad who is still alive, thankfully. He was the one who took a loan from the bank and he supported me. He became my sponsor, basically.
Bravo, Dad. Bravo, Dad.
And eventually something very tragic happened on Everest. Was I could not summit. I could see the summit. I was just 800 meters away from the summit, but it was, again, that's the reason I made that short film, which I call Everest, the mountain that changed my life, because it has actually done that. So I was just 800 meters from the summit. I could see the summit, but my oxygen regulator broke off. Had to turn around. I had to make I think it's one of the most difficult decisions of my life that I had to make at that point, to just turn around and rather be alive and not kill myself for the sake of summit. And after making that short documentary and capturing the viral photograph and footage of traffic jam on Everest, my interest in filmmaking grew, and I was offered an internship in a French production house back in India. And they eventually also made a documentary on me, which you mentioned earlier. It's called A Deadly Ascent. And since then, the journey has been going on. I met Shidan almost 5 years ago. No, I think four and a half years ago. And him and I have also worked a lot since then, and we continue to do that. We also made an award-winning film a year ago, which was about snowboarding. That's something, again, I do and I love. And I wanted to show people like how we do this predominantly white sport back in our community. And the film did really, really good because GoPro supported it, and everything was so pure about it. We composed the soundtrack. We, gave it a very personal and authentic touch of Kashmir. And coming to the main project that we've been working on for such a long time, that is climbing my Everest. It's about the challenges that me and everyone else who would relate to it eventually when the film is out is about. Like, we all have our own Everest to climb.
Metaphorically.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking. So this film is about my mental health challenges and the youth's mental health challenges, and how we cope up with them and how we basically deal with them. And for me, nature has been the greatest support in all this. And I'm currently in New York. We are very close to the finish line. We're short of $30,000 to $40,000. We just want to basically, we're very close to our goal, and
yet far away.
Yet far away, but we are getting there. So,
the story of every indie filmmaker.
Being an indie filmmaker, this is one of the biggest challenges.
That's true. Okay, it's very intriguing. I had some questions sort of formulated in my mind, but as you started speaking, I like to get deeper into what you've said. First of all, what a wonderful family you must have had that would have sacrificed so much for you to make your dream come true. That's wonderful. The other thing is, I hadn't realized that the climb would be that expensive. And yet you're talking about the traffic on there, the number of people. So how's that happening? And who are the other climbers usually?
Okay, so the thing is, it's not much documented out there when people can read about it, but still there's a lot of good articles and documentaries people can watch about Everest. But there's a lot of harsh reality, which I just told, and that's what broke out when I was on Everest in 2019. It was one of the deadliest climbing seasons. So a lot of people who you see on Everest are people with a lot of money, and they just want to climb. Like, they want to have that thing.
A status symbol.
And we call it in our terminology, summit fever they have. Like they want to reach the summit and they want to be called as Everesters, So there are people from all over the world. And what happened on that specific year is there were 300 climbers climbing on a very single day on a single rope, because Everest in itself is a big, universe. If we talk about the expedition climbing, and there's so many things that go on to it, and I can go on and on. Here's the thing. So climbing Everest takes at least 60 days. So you're technically there for 2 months on the mountain, sometimes 70 days. So the thing is, in those 60 days, there are only 2 to 3 summit windows when you can summit, because that's only when the weather allows you to go up. So it's all like, imagine 300 climbers aiming for that same day to just go up and summit. Same day. So
on one single rope.
And on one single rope, because and it's not a road. There's only one path. You cannot overtake. You cannot go sideways, because
you have to wait for
It's a very small journey. So what happens is you're stuck in that line, and if I am fast, but the person in front of me is not fast, he's slow, I am on an oxygen tank, but my oxygen is running out, right? My body is giving up because I'm in death zone. So what happened is it caused an actual human traffic jam. That's what the photo was about. That was the footage was about.
Right.
People started dying. Some people died on the rope, and some people made mistakes to overtake. They unclipped themselves from the rope and they wanted to go around, and they slipped and they died. So a lot of this, it's the harsh reality of mountain climbing. And that was a big eye-opener for me, because I was like, this is not why I came here. This is not why I wanted to climb Everest, because I did not know that side of Everest. I was too naive and young. And one of the most difficult things that I faced on Everest, not physically, but mentally, was the harsh and brutal racism. I was othered because I was a young Kashmiri Indian / climber who doesn't know how to climb.
You are, and yet you're probably the person from the closest place to the mountain, right?
Yeah.
You're almost a local.
With a heart condition, with a diagnosed heart condition.
You had a heart condition at 18?
I still have a heart condition. I was born with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this something that you can, you can manage easily, or is it difficult?
I've been managing it till now, thankfully. I was othered on the Everest because I was climbing with UK Special Forces team. And as I said, I was looked down upon because I was young and I was Indian, labeled as an Indian climber, because up there, they don't see you're a Kashmiri. Kashmir, they don't know what Kashmir is. You're Indian, you're Indian. And Indian climbers, I have said this in many major interviews, Indian climbers do not have a good reputation in climbing industry in the world. They're looked down upon. So I was immediately, pushed down into this dark hole. And I've spent countless nights in my tent all alone, crying and figuring out what to do with, myself and how to go further up. And I think that was one of the most difficult times.
Any other folks your age on that group?
No.
Or at least close to your age?
None of them were even close to my.
Remember, it's a sport of privileged people. It costs so much money.
Exactly.
Is an absolute exception. So there was prejudice coming at him left, right, and center. He's already dealing with mental health issues, heart condition. He's made a huge sacrifice. So much is lying on his shoulders because his family have taken this loan from a bank, and how is he going to be treated? Because the region expects him to come back as a hero, someone who's something, So he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, yet he took one photograph that shed light on an issue that was completely unbeknownst to the world, and that was the over-trafficking of Everest, because Nepal, the country, was economically very challenged, and this was a great way to make money. And they didn't care about the safety. So on Rizza's expedition, 11 people died. 11 of his fellow climbers died because of the
We heard that
negative.
on the news, unfortunately.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
captured it on camera, and AP and Reuters picked it up. It went viral. And unbeknownst to him, because of what was going on back in Kashmir with a communication breakdown, when the internet and phone was shut down for almost a year, he was living in misery because the country was so disappointed in him because he didn't come back the hero. An 18-year-old treated him as a loser, and they were ashamed of him.
Because they don't understand the meaning of winning.
Yeah. It took me a while to understand the real worth. I would, like at one point I even fell for that because my own family was looking down upon me, my relatives, my fellows from my community.
The story is very nuanced, and I don't want him to give it all away. The depth of mental health, especially amongst youth and children in conflict zones. And look at the world right now. Look at the amount of the different parts of the world that are suffering because of conflict. And what do these children and youth go through? How does it translate to their psyche? So this is what the film is really about. It's like, how do the youth survive in conflict zones with all these different mental health pressures that are bombarding them? It's an assault on the soul.
Did you start climbing before you started snowboarding, or did snowboarding come first?
No, the climbing started first. As I said earlier, I wanted to climb Everest. I was so obsessed with it, and I started climbing. I went to become a certified climber. I took training, all of that. And then eventually, so here's the thing about I will give us the rough idea of my geography where I live. So I live very close to the ski resort. It's like 1 hour drive from my home because I live in a small town back on the foot.
Okay.
Like it's literally 1 hour drive and I'm in the mountains.
I see.
That was something which was very close to me and easily accessible. I picked up it later on when I went with my cousins one day. There's so much out there that, a lot of people don't know. That sport is done in my part of the world on a very big level, but sadly, we don't have that kind of, accessibility to things. It's very difficult for us to do such things, but we try to do it in our own way.
He learned how to snowboard by watching YouTube. I mean, you can't take classes. It's so expensive.
There's no classes. They're expensive. I did it by watching YouTube videos.
But it's because of his athletic nature and potential, that he was able to do that. Because a lot of it is also in the head, right? A lot of it is that you imagine it. And
I think I have this, sorry to cut you off, this weird thing about myself is that I want to, Shidan has seen this in the last 5 years. I try to do things when it comes to sport, I do extreme sports. I like to push myself beyond human limits. I've done some, apart from Everest, I've done some other crazy things, which we would not talk about in detail because they're an essential part of the film. I have done some crazy things so I'm also a mountain biker. I do mountain biking. That's something.
Daredevil.
So I always try to push myself beyond my limits.
That's amazing. The potential in all of us, really, if each one of us explored even a fraction of the potential inside us, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
But there are people like you who do, who go the extra mile and try to achieve.
I think we all do have the potential. That's how I see it. And I always try my best to use my social media or my platform to inspire people, or at least give them a little bit of sense of hope. Because the place I come from, people are very hopeless. They don't, a lot of people have just given up on life. They've chosen the path of drugs and drug abuse and other stuff. But I think I would say I'm lucky enough to say this and be sitting in New York right now talking to you and be with Shidan to say this, that I did not choose that route. I was lucky by God, by my family, by my friends who supported me and who continue to support me to do something that I love. It comes at a big cost. I haven't even talked about that in small detail because that's a crucial part of the film that we're working on. But I have always tried my best to basically give people a sense of hope through my platform. And that's what this whole film is about. It's about hope. At the end of the day, we are just trying to show people that there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? There is still hope that if I can do it, if people in my part of the world who have lived without internet, without phone for 6 months, 1 year, I mean, let's be honest, in today's DNA, no one can imagine living without internet for a day.
No.
It's impossible. But my people, we have lived without this for 6 months, 1 year. Like, I would not know if my friend is alive because he lives 5 blocks away, and because there's no communication and there are curfews outside. So what I'm trying to say is we always have to try in our own ways to give people hope in whichever way we can.
He's become a voice and an advocate for mental health, especially in his region. A lot of the youth, the Gen Z, are suffering, including the adults. We just read a report yesterday that only 0.07% of Kashmiris
0.3%
have not experienced mental health challenges. Rizza, and it's credit to you, Gloria, because I've never seen him come so much to life, and I see happiness in him. But this film, one of the reasons it's taken so long is also that he checks out. He's so overwhelmed with, anxiety, depression. He goes into this period of self-harming, attempted suicide. Once I got a FaceTime, he was in the hospital. They just pumped his stomach. So for him, nature has been, it's not a healer. He, like all of us, are constantly searching for peace. We don't have the answers, but he's found a way through his love for nature and these sports to not give up hope and to keep trying. And he keeps trying. And as you can see, nature just gives him. He comes to life when he even talks about it.
I just realized that.
It looks like everyone is suffering from some sort of mental illness. The degrees differ, and the nature of it, of course, differs. And I know I myself, I'm on 2 depression medications, and that's how I function. That's how I go on. And I in my networking of artists or performers, I should say, we're all on the same boat, and especially those of us who don't drink or do drugs, you don't know what to do.
And I just noticed this box that he carries at his age. He's called it the doctor.
Yeah, that's my, that's why
your heart medication?
No, my antidepressants. And
okay. Well, you and I are on the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, but I talked about some of the deeper conditions, including self-harming, his suicide attempts. He's been through sexual abuse. I mean, it's just layers upon layers of assault, from a very young age.
I'm so sorry, Riza.
No, it's okay. I mean,
so sorry. Why is the world so cruel? Why? Yeah. And yet, look at this young man.
But let me tell you, I don't want to justify it, but the suffering, and I know this is so cliche, but I look at him, like you said, and I tear up because there's this purity about this guy. There is this sense of majesty, this sense of humility, this sense of deep care that I think is so unique. Again, I don't want to give the film away, so I'm not going to cut to a story that appears in the film. But, from a very young age, as a little child in a playground, you get to hear how different he was and how sensitive he was. But it was the suffering that, has made him, he's only 23 right now, into the giant soul that he is. And these are the souls that will be the new architects of a new world. So,
exactly.
As you said, very proud of him, very proud of him.
Exactly.
But not going to talk about a story anymore.
Not about the story, no. But about the fact that it takes young people like him and others like him,
exactly,
to change the face of the world, as we go forward.
Absolutely.
And then hopefully the generations that they will produce will take it even further. And when I'm gone, at least I can look down and see what these young folks have done. So thank you.
And sorry that we're giving you this world.
Yeah. well, Shidan, you're probably younger than I am, but my generation sucks. We're ruining the earth. We are creating divides. Our prejudices persist. It's crazy.
But it's going to change. It's going to change.
Yeah, and I know, and I've always said this, that I believe in not today. I believe in time immemorial, and that it's not just about you and me today and present. The world will go on, and our connectivity will go on. We are connected, us with the past generations and the future generations to us, and so on and so forth. So we are moving towards the right direction, but it's hard to see, especially for an older generation, to see the younger generation. The reason I feel so, my heart moves with Rizza's situation is maybe because he's my children's age. I was a single mom when my youngest was 4 years old. It was so hard to make sure that my children didn't suffer, but of course they suffered. It's inevitable. It's the atmosphere. It's my oldest child was born in Haifa. I did an interview with him, and I found out for the first time that he was embarrassed to tell his classmates that he was born in Haifa, because we lived in an area of town that were prominently Iranians or Pakistanis or other Muslim backgrounds, and they just thought it was crazy. How could he have been born in Israel? And he said to me during that interview that he would sometimes not mention where he was born until he really had to. Even to that, and that's nothing compared to what you've been through. I'm not trying to put it in parallel formats, but still, even something like that shouldn't exist. Everybody should be proud of saying where they were born or where they come from or their backgrounds and how poor they were or how rich they were or whatever. I admire your courage. I admire your persistence. I admire your resilience. And talking about my child again, my younger child who is 20, he's also an athlete. And he had cancer when he was 14. He was diagnosed with cancer, and it took 2 or 3 years until he was cleared and, recovered from the surgeries and the treatments and so on and so forth. And then we hit the pandemic. And everything was closed. So he took, this is when he's about 17 now. He was 14 when he was first diagnosed, and he was about 17 when he was cleared. At 17, he winterized our single car garage and created his own gym with a boxing thing and all training stuff, benches and presses and all of that. And he started training for track and field because it was one of the only sports where you could do by yourself. You didn't have to go to school or get together because none of those sports were allowed at the time. So he started, training for track. And at grade 12, finally, the next year, school reopened and there's this regional track and field, and he went for the competition. He brought home the gold, and then he got 4 full scholarships from 4 of the best universities in Ontario.
That's the next documentary.
He's in third year university. He's got a GPA of 4.0. He's an Olympic trainee. He qualified for the Olympics. And, with a GPA of 4.0 and his Olympic training, he has received the All-Canadian Athlete Award from the Governor, Governor General of Canada every year at university. So I have seen what, and you sort of, Shidan, you motivated me to say this because of what you said about hardship can be a motivating factor, a growing factor. Now, unfortunately, we've also seen the other side of it. We've also seen people who didn't have enough, maybe family love, the way you did, the way my son had. They didn't have enough support or friends. And they, instead of growing out of the calamity, the misfortune, the difficulty, they went towards drugs or alcoholism or very, very bad situations. So it's very encouraging to hear your story. And I'm so glad that you got together. This story, this project is much bigger than what I had initially thought. And by bigger, I don't mean in terms of money or budget or length or anything like that. Maybe I shouldn't say bigger, I should say deeper.
There's a big heart in it.
I'm sure you've been just as moved with Rizza and Shidan and their project as much as I have. Like I said, it's an indie project that will affect so many people in the world, myself and my children included. So if you are inclined to help make this film, we've put the crowdfunding link below in the comment section. Also, Shidan Majidi's social media link. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did.
Thanks for having both of us.
Wish you all the best, not just in this project, but in every project. So, my dear friends at home who've been watching, old friends, new friends, thank you. We're going to say goodbye to these gentlemen, and we'll see you again back in a week from now. Thanks, Rizza. Thanks, Shidan. Bye for now. Bye, everyone. From scattered fragments to global unity, healing our world together.